Hi, good morning. Today I'm tying some flies, an effective bait fish fly pattern. The color pattern is red and white. It's good for snook, trout, redfish. The hooks I'm using is the Mustad tarpon hook, also the Mustad big game hook. Sizes 1/0 or size number 2 works very fine for this pattern. Start off with the tarpon hook in 1/0 size today. The first thing I'll do is I'll secure the thread onto the hook shank. Red and white has always been a traditional pattern for saltwater species. White for the bait fish color and red as an attractant. On a bass neck, rooster neck, bass or saltwater neck they're called, we get some hackles. Webby and stiff hackles are the best as opposed to droopy and not webby. So I've pre-cut 4 already. Measure them out on my leg so all the tips of the hackles match. Once the hackles are paired up and evenly matched, you can pre-size how big of a pattern you're going to tie. In this case, again, we're using a 1/0 hook, so approximately the bait fish will be about 2.5 inches long, maybe 3. So measure it, cut it, fluff out the tidbits there. I like the hackles to splay out, and the reason that is it helps the fly kick. If you splay the hackles in, it almost tracks like a knife and when you strip the fly, it doesn't displace the water as good, and by having the hackles out as opposed to in, you have a little bit more water displacement. And the fish, they sense that water displacement with their lateral lines, and it helps them to see or know that there's a bait fish in the area or potential food source. So don't go too tight on the hackles because then you start taking away the shape of it. You can underwrap a little bit with the thread, and what that does, it'll help kick the hackles up. Next thing I do, this is a very simple and very fast pattern to tie, is I get some pearl flashabou, about 4 strands. They're about somewhere in there. Make a V with the strands, with your fingers. There's the V right there. Spread them out and equally distribute the flash on both sides of the hackles. Now, a lot of people, what they'll do now is they'll cut it like a toothbrush. And no bait fish has fins like that. It's not perfectly straight. So what I like to do is cut it a little bit past it, and then individually, the flashabou, there's some tapering in it, not the hackle. And once you have it streamlined like that, you're done. The Zap-A-Gap makes a little head cement that's very convenient, very strong, and very fast. And I just put a little bit of that on the base of the fly. There's an animal called Arctic fox, and it's a very nice material. And we're going to use this as the back of the fly, the very top dorsal. So I got a little strip here, and that adds a little bit of a tapering to the color. So that's going to go like right about there. A couple of wraps, and then with your thumb, push down and let it kind of equally go around the top of the bait fish pattern there. So it's nice and full like that around the hook shank. And some wraps. Most of the effective flies you'll see out there are sparsely tied. People tend to bulk up your flies a lot. And so a sparse fly is actually a good fly. Puglisi makes this wire brush wrap. I think it's called a minnow head, 1.5 in size. And it's very convenient, very much like your palmering on a sea deucer hackle. This palmers very well. So with these pliers, I just cut a little bit. Put a little bit on there. Tie it to the back a little bit. Secure it. You could add a little bit of super glue or Zap-A-Gap right now. The key to this is to get your fingers and pull the material back and then wrap. Pull the material back and then wrap. And what that does, it helps to taper the material evenly through the fly. Take your time, don't rush it. Equally distribute it. So you can see I'm pulling the material back. This is a deadly, deadly pattern for saltwater. Works in almost any kind of watercolor as well. When you think you've built enough, and here's a problem a lot of folks do, they typically don't leave enough room here for the weed guard, which we'll demonstrate here in a little bit, and more room there for the eyes to be properly secured. A properly tied fly has a clean eye, and it does not have any thread or material protruding in the eye where you would tie your leader. So always give yourself a little room back here for that. That seems to be about right. Tease the material a little bit. This Puglisi wrap is very, very friendly for tying. And now just give it a few wraps, pull it up with nippers, close it, cut it. And this fly is almost done. Another little trick, this is a Danville waxed nylon thread. If you twirl it counterclockwise, it makes the thread flatter and doesn't bulk up the head as much, and also allows more evenly distribution of the thread. As you go around and around with the thread, it tends to twist itself. So to untwist that, turn it like I spin it with my fingers counterclockwise. We'll put these are plastic eyes. They weigh nothing. This fly tracks deceiver style, meaning the hook points down as opposed to clouser style with the hook point up. So if you put something with lead, and you could, like 1/50th ounce lead weight, this would be a good way to tie this fly as well, if you want it deeper. But this is a good snook fly. That's the intention of this fly, and it's shallow water, so it's soft landing, and it pulsates. And we don't want a lot of weight, and we want it to track straight, and we want it to track hook down in this case. So I'll secure the eyes with some, much like you would a clouser style fly. Another little tip, these two fingers, grab the fly here, and now push the eyes back a little bit. And what that does, that buys you a little bit more room in the front of the fly. Do figure 8 knots. Secure the hook, secure the eyes on the fly, push it back, and the only thing left over to do now is to do the weed guard. Many people use Mason for the weed guard. I don't. There's nothing wrong with Mason. I prefer fluorocarbon. I use a Seagar 25-pound fluorocarbon. I cut a piece about yay big. I grab both ends and I jam them together so that it forms a curvature on the fluorocarbon. And I'm going to tie it this way, so there's a natural curvature going this way. You wouldn't want to do it the other way. This is how I do it. With my fingernail, I mash down these pliers, I trim, and then I flatten the tips, almost like they're like little paddles, like a paddle on an oar. And by flattening the tip of the fluorocarbon, it doesn't bulk up when you tie the weed guard. So one little leg goes down, a couple of thread wraps, another little leg goes down. There is a different way of tying weed guards. This is the way I've always tied it, and it works good for me. The other style, which is just to put it on there, and much like clouser eyes, X-wrap your thread works. This one's a little bit cleaner, I think, and you'll see here when I kick it up, that it stands out really nice. So I just grabbed a loop and I put a thread base behind it. I go to the eye and back to the weed guard, to the eye and back to the weed guard, and what that does, it kicks the weed guard so it sits in a 90-degree pattern down. We're going to whip finish the fly, and pretty much it's done. Cut the thread out. Same pliers, they're flat nosed. Come up here, pinch it. Measure about how far you want the weed guard to be. In this case, it's going to be just past the hook point. And there you have it. Very, very effective fly. If you have a comb, you can comb the material here, and what that does, you can do it with your fingers as well. Incidentally, your fingertips are one of the finest fly tying tools available is your fingertips, because you can pluck and adjust and do things nicely with the fingers. But this pattern casts really, really well. It kicks water really, really well. It casts easy. It's very, very lightweight. Very, very weedless, because you have the weed guards here, and it prevents the fly getting caught up in the mangroves. Nice color combo. You know, in saltwater, it's one of the colors that you can't go wrong with. Bait fish pattern, balanced well, tracks good, and moves a lot of water. I hope this gives you an edge out there and an idea to tie your bait fish patterns.